Yeah, so I watched Do Revenge. What can we learn from that? Before I start, I just want to say, like I always do, I don't think filmmaking is this thing only some can do. I think anybody that wants to participate, it's their right, but storytelling is a language, and so it's about the fluency, the vocabulary, understanding, and the constant pursuit of more fluency. Having said that, Do Revenge is a sort of like a Mean Girls for 2022, where there's hierarchies in high school as hell and all that kind of stuff. The Drea, Camilla Mendes' character, gets ousted from her sort of social status and has decided to make her entire senior year about revenge. And she teams up with Hawke's Eleanor, who's sort of an outsider, and they basically just trade cliques in order to undermine each other's given cliques. With the ultimate plan for, this crazy revenge, and it takes place at this fancy preparatory school that is pretty much only known for making Ivy League students. I think it's in Florida. So I don't really want to get into the plot initially, just because I don't think you can take it at face value. I think of it as, Mean Girls, where it's a satire and it's the heightened level of everything. I think what's working so well in this movie actually is the pairing between Camilla Mendes' Drea and Hawke's Eleanor. It's a buddy comedy. It's a buddy adventure. Camilla Mendes is this very bitter, revenge-seeking character, and Hawke is this sort of sweet outsider, and they have this push and pull that is this strange friendship that kind of reminded me of like Superbad, if you've ever seen that. Between the two boys, where there's this ongoing sort of uneasiness where they neither of them wants to acknowledge that they're going to go off and never see each other again. That's not this friendship. This friendship is much more, one has a line and won't cross it, and the other has a line and won't cross it, and they're constantly pushing each other to sort of get to the line. It's interesting. Character dynamics, character motivations, tracking character emotionality, making sure that the characters make choices based on their emotions, not just what's right for the story. Yeah, very good. I think that's why this movie works so well, is a very close and very nuanced understanding of these two characters and how they interact with each other and how they interact with the world. Although, to be perfectly honest, anybody but those first two characters are pretty much flat, one-note characters, but that's fine. That's kind of not the point of this story, because again, this is very strong, motivated by the Mean Girls of it all. There's also a pretty transparent homage to 10 Things I Hate About You, where they're throwing paintballs, or I guess balloons full of paint. So yeah, this is an example, I think, of a flawed movie, a very heightened, like intentionally edgy movie, but it works because the character work was actually done quite well and quite completely. So, having said that, it's not without fault. The first thing I want to acknowledge is it's a prep school that makes Ivy League students, and it's expensive and pretty white. If somebody in the agricultural department is going to have an entire greenhouse full of illicit drugs with just a padlock on it, that's a matter of time. I don't understand why that was a plot point. I think that was kind of just messy writing, but yeah, I believe in a world with 8 billion people. The order of events, including the greenhouse incident in this movie, definitely have happened once, but it's kind of like Star Trek, when the captain always goes down to the planet, where if you actually pull back and think about it, why would you send the captain? Why wouldn't you send somebody who wasn't the captain? That kind of thing. It seems like things keep happening that way, but yeah, the greenhouse thing, I'm just like, if you have drugs on a fancy campus, it's a matter of time. So that's one thing. And the other thing is sort of the premise of this whole thing, which is Camilla Mendes' Drea character makes a, for lack of a better term, child prawn, and sends it to her boyfriend, and then it leaks, and that's what ousts her socially and sort of jeopardizes her going to Yale, which is the thing she cares about, and sort of sets her on this journey of revenge that is her senior year. There's a lot to unpack there. I think it's an opportunity to address a very nuanced, very complicated, very unanswered aspect of what it is to be a high schooler right now, which is, obviously not a high schooler. It was barely a thing when I was doing high school, but obviously it wasn't my clique anyway. But yeah, child prawn. I don't think we have good answers for it right now. I think kids are doing it, and the laws haven't really changed much. I don't know. I think there's an opportunity for a conversation there. I don't think this movie, and I especially don't think this video, is the conduit for that kind of conversation. But it's interesting. But the laws are the laws. If you make it, if you distribute it, jail. Obviously, that's not going to be a universal thing. I think it's probably more the exception to the rule, because if you're a kid who participates in it, I'm not convinced the punishment is going to exist. And even if it does, it's not going to be jail, but the law says jail. So, the short answer to how do you not get your child prawn leaked when you're a child who makes child prawn, don't do it. Weirdly, that resonates a lot similarly to the abstinence is safe doing it conversation, but it's not. It's pragmatism. If you don't want your tape to go out, don't make one, because celebrities are not safe. Regular people are not safe. If you put it into the internet, into the cloud, it's a matter of time. If you make it at all, I just feel like it's a matter of time, unfortunately. And so unless you're okay with it being out there, don't make it, because at some point it's going to get out there, just because people do people things, which is, not great. And the laws are the laws. So having said that, with the whole child prawn thing being sort of the inciting incident for this whole story, does that actually meaningfully add to what this movie is? I would argue no, and here's why. Basically what happened with the child prawn thing is she got shamed, and then there's a conversation to be had about the fact that men don't get punished, which I agree, but I don't necessarily think this movie sort of delivered on that argument anyway. But she got punished for child prawn, lost all of her friends, and then her boyfriend, who remains unpunished, also got her best friend to be his girlfriend. If you take out the child prawn aspect of it, she loses her friend group, her boyfriend picks up her best friend as his new girlfriend. Nothing has changed. It's one of those situations where if you take an element out and it doesn't change anything, did you need that element in the first place? I would argue no. But again, this is one of those movies that if you look too hard into it, I think you're going to find holes everywhere. And so if you just treat it for what it is, which is sort of the emotional journey between Camilla Mendes as Drea and her quest for revenge, and Maya Hawke's Eleanor and her quest for fitting in, I think you're going to have a very satisfying experience. And that's really what we want in movies anyway. So the takeaway is that. But once you start looking at the actual details of this movie, things start falling apart pretty quickly. I don't know. I'm willing to hand wave it as a satire, but yeah, it just seems like the child prawn thing just was a little weird. I mean, certainly topical, certainly relevant to the conversation that the people that they're trying to speak to, which is high schoolers. I just don't think it was a very well executed conversation about that. So I don't know. That's what I think. What do you guys think? Am I reading too much into just a broad high school comedy, or is this a really well-toned satire that I just didn't get because I'm an old fogey? Let me know. So see you next time.